ideally it starts in spring training and you have them for the whole season. And I think we've seen that with our guys, like especially the new guys. They get put into the organization and then they get put into our process. And sometimes that happens very quickly. And other times, like, it takes some time to kind of get them going with what we think might be important, but it's also being a really good listener.
Part of the culture is just how fun this team has been. And one thing we saw, the pitchers finally jumped in and got their own celebration.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. Usually the process is like once the start's over, then there's a little bit of debriefing and like, good job. And it's with the catchers there. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see they have the OMG sign that they do for the home runs, and all the starters are like huddled around it. And I'm like, what's going on? And then so I point, they caught eyes, and then they just ran over there, and it kind of organically turned into this little thing that they do.
What excites you the most about this bullpen as we head down to the final week of the season?
Obviously, Sugar being healthy. It kind of hinges on him, right? And I think that's true for every team. Like, if you have an elite closer at the back end, it makes innings 6 through 8 or 5 through 8 a lot easier. Like, you can mix and match and stuff like that. If there's a question mark in the ninth, then that's another inning you have to account for. And so we know Sugar's there.
Hey, Mets fans, thanks for meeting us at the Apple. I'm Vito Calisi. You can follow me on Twitter at Vito F. Calisi. That's Jonathan Barron at JMB9191. And we are here with Jeremy Hefner, the pitching coach of the New York Mets. And Jeremy, I mean, it's been an incredible year, especially for you. The pitching has just been outrageous. Let's just go through the guys and let's just talk about the years these dudes have had. So, like, let's start off talking about a guy. You just signed our OMG sign right above Shawn Manaea's name. What's it been like to watch Shawn this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a journey for Shawn. Even before the change, I mean, it's been well talked about, right? Like he saw Sale pitch and kind of mimicked him and those types of things. But he was a good pitcher before that as well, right?
He threw a no-hitter at one point in his life.
Yeah. And so I think, and even just specific to this year, like what he was doing for us, like he was doing fine. But he's obviously taking his game to the next level, and I think it's just an appreciation for his ability to watch the game and be curious and not afraid to take a risk, and it's paid off for us.
How about David Peterson, a guy that Vito and I have talked about a lot? When he made his debut, it was apparent to us that he was going to be a big part of the success of this team moving forward. Since June 13th, you guys have the best starting pitching ERA in the National League, and he has been a huge part of that. A former first-rounder who has finally really started to figure it out. So from your chair, what has he done to get to the point that he's at now?
So I think, like, baseball's the ultimate team game, right? And so ERA, to have a good ERA, you have to have good defense. You have to be able to catch the ball behind our guys, and we've done an incredible job of that. And with Lindor leading the charge there, and our outfielders playing really well and catching balls in the gaps and stuff like that. But specifically to Petey, like, he's just continued to mature as a major leaguer, right? And he's learned how to get the ground ball, when to get the punch out, and he's continued to evolve his stuff and his delivery, and he feels better, and it's a huge credit to our performance group and keeping guys healthy, keeping guys on the field, so that the coaches on the field can help them be the best versions of themselves from a mechanic standpoint or from a grip standpoint or mentality and stuff like that. So total team effort from the guys behind him playing defense to our performance group and analytics and those types of things.
It's interesting you mentioned that he can get the punch out when he needs it. He could throw the ground ball when he needs it, because we've seen almost different versions of him depending on his outing. We've seen double-digit strikeouts, the Red Sox game in particular, where the high heater was a weapon he turned to a lot. We've seen games like his last outing in Philadelphia where I think he had 11 ground ball outs. We always say it's a bad day to be a worm whenever David Peterson's on the mound. Now, when you talk about the ground ball, we've also noticed that the Mets defense has been phenomenal on the infield. They turn a lot of those ground balls into outs. People look at the advanced numbers, his FIP, the expected batting average against David Peterson. When you guys look at that and internalize and talk about, okay, well, he's still been effective, and over time you have to eventually assume that, like, what we're seeing is what we're getting here. When you talk about the context, how do you guys analyze all of the secondary, periphery numbers with David and really calculate and try to make of what you're seeing out there in real time?
Yeah, I think the walks were driving up some of those numbers, especially around FIP, because that's, what's one of the main inputs in FIP is your ability to control the strike zone. And I think at the beginning of the season for David, he was walking a few more guys than we would have liked, and that's corrected itself over the last couple starts. And I think like specific to the strikeouts versus the ground balls, like I think it depends on the stuff that he has that day, because it can vary and it varies for every pitcher. And then also it depends on the lineup he's facing, right? If it's a very aggressive team or they're highly susceptible to the four seam like Boston was, then you see more punch outs. And then with Philly, like see it again potentially tonight. Like they put the ball in play. They have some speed. They have guys that don't strike out a lot, and so there's going to be more ground balls. And so, with more balls in play, the expected batting average is going to be higher,
sure.
Right? And so, like in terms of like rationalizing that and understanding that, I think it's just a piece of the puzzle, right? It's ultimately like what you see with your eyes. All right, what's the computer saying, and then we'll take in all that information as a whole pie, and like, all right, what do we need to chew on to make ourselves better moving forward?
You mentioned the four-seamer, and I've been dying to ask you this for a while, and now we have you here on the podcast. So I've noticed the high four-seam fastball, the four-seamer up in the zone, is a pitch that a lot of the rotation turns to. Jose Quintana, not as much. He lives more down in the strike zone, paints, but Sean has had a lot of success with the high fastball. David in that Red Sox start, I noticed it. Sevy, of course, high fastball. And the Mets have the highest whiff rate as a unit, both starters and relievers, with the four-seam fastball of all major league teams this year. Is it something that you guys are preaching, or is it something that these guys just excel at because they have the God-given ability to beat opposing hitters up in the zone with the heater?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of mixture of everything. I think when you're talking about attacking a hitter and you're talking about attacking weaknesses or pitching to strengths and those types of things, I think that it's just the way the situation's presented itself, where we have a group of guys that have some good fastballs and can like lean into those fastballs, and then you may not have that group next year, or you're on a different team with a different group of guys, and it may look different. But I think it's just kind of it's not anything we're doing like intentionally. It's just the way that how we talk about the game, how we talk about attacking hitters, reading swings with Alvy and Louie, what's working on that particular day, how they're feeling with that pitch, and so it comes and goes. And Petey's the perfect example of like, he had the Boston game where he just went to the well, right? And then the Toronto game, like there was a lot of uncompetitive fastballs like way above their head, and he just didn't have the command of that day, and so he had to lean into other pitches. And so I think it's just quickly realizing in the moment, in those first few innings, like what the flow of the game is going to be, and then what. So we have a plan going in, and we're gonna trust that plan, and we're gonna go after that plan. But like you got to have plan A, or you got to have plan B and C in the holster, ready to fire in case plan A is not working.
So we want to talk to you about Luis Severino too, because it's interesting. You brought up when we talk about Sean, you were saying Sean obviously has had good seasons. He's a good pitcher, and when we talked to Sean, he was talking about how one of the reasons him and Sevy connected is they were both frustrated with the way they felt, that they are not performing up to the level that they should be. So just what's it like for you to have an impact kind of on these big turnaround seasons for these guys, and such an important year for them?
It's not me. Like I'm not the only one that's helping them do this, right? Like I feel like we have some of the best trainers and strength coaches in the league, and like we're all partners in like making sure that every pitcher, but specific to Sean and Sevy, that they're healthy and they feel good. Because if they're healthy and they feel good, then they can perform at these high levels, and we can make the necessary adjustments to their mechanics and their grips and stuff. If they're not feeling good, then it's much harder to do those types of things. And like I try to create an environment where like it's not an echo chamber, right? Like it's not what I'm saying is what we have to do, but it's more so like there's some ideas that I have that I think that most pitchers should do, and then based on your experiences and the experiences of other people, like what's best for you in this moment. And I think like Sean and Sevy having that connection like is a byproduct of the culture that we've tried to establish here over a number of years.
Part of the culture is just how fun this team has been. And one thing we saw, the pitchers finally jumped in and got their own celebration. Did you know about the celebration going into it? They said it was pretty spur of the moment, that they kind of just did it on their own.
Yeah. No, I had no idea. I can't remember who it was exactly the first time, but usually the process is like once the start's over, then there's a little bit of debriefing and like, good job and, whatever. And it's with the catchers there. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see they have the OMG sign that they do for the home runs, and all the starters are like huddled around it. And I'm like, what's going on? And then so I point, and then I can't remember who it was. It might have been Sean's first one. Maybe Sevy initiated. I'm not sure. You have to ask them.
It sounds like a Sevy thing. I mean, he is Mr. OMG home run sign. So
definitely. And then they caught eyes, and then they just ran over there, and it kind of organically turned into this little thing that they do.
Did you see last night? Lindor tried to jump in on it. And then
I did not see that.
He tried to jump in on it.
Is it a pitchers only thing? They said, go hang out with your sign.
So he jumped in on it. Then Shawn Manaea turned around and was like, hey. And then David Peterson gave him a joking like swat of the OMG sign of like, this is a pitchers only thing.
But that's not fair, because the pitchers jump in on the hitter stuff. So.
Sevy's in every picture with the OMG sign, unless he's on the mound that night.
So we should be all inclusive there.
All right. Jose Quintana. What a turnaround it's been. He had the rough start against Baltimore. I believe it was August 20th. And since then, he's allowed all of 2 runs. Mm-hmm. And, people were wondering if he'd remain in the rotation. And he has been one of the leaders of this rotation. And he's had a great season all year long. He really has. And he's a guy who's been around for a while. He started playoff games for the Cardinals in 2022. So he's been here. He's done this before. From your vantage point, what has helped him be so successful, especially over the last month where he just is not allowing anything?
Mm-hmm. So for Q, it's just execution, right? Like he doesn't have overwhelming stuff, right? He doesn't have high velo. So you want to call it old school or whatever, like it is like just hit spots. Mm-hmm. And so that's all he works on. That's all we work on. We don't try to improve the stuff or anything like that. The changeup has gotten better. The sinker has gotten better, just naturally as we've worked on things, and that's helped him get some swing and miss when he needs to. But like if he hits a spot, and Q has an unbelievable awareness of reading the situation, reading the scoreboard, reading the swing, understanding the temperature of the other team and what, are they going to be more aggressive against me? Are they not? Q's exceptional at that. And so I think that's kind of led into this really good stretch that he's had.
So we had Antoine Richardson and Eric Chavez on the podcast, and we asked them this question from the hitter perspective. So many guys go up there. Not everyone's the same. You got a big power hitter. You got a guy who puts the ball in play like a Jose Iglesias, et cetera, et cetera. You have 5 starting pitchers who are all very different. You have 3 lefties who all bring something very different to the table. Everyone's different. As a pitching coach, how do you go about doing your job, handling different guys? One guy's having success. One guy's not having success. This guy throws 99. This guy is, living off of his breaking stuff. How do you do your job by connecting with sometimes 12, 13 different guys?
Yeah, I think it all starts in, ideally it starts in spring training and you have them for the whole season. And I think we've seen that with our guys, like especially the new guys, they get put into the organization and then they get put into our process. And sometimes that happens very quickly. And other times like it takes some time to kind of get them going with what we think might be important. But it's also being a really good listener. And because their idea, if they come up with the idea, it's more likely to take hold quicker than me trying to force something down their throat or like, you got to do pitching this way, right? Like no one knows, like no one, there's especially in our game, there's so much up to chance. There's so much that we can't control that like, yeah, from my vantage point in the dugout, you should have thrown a slider there, but he felt like the fastball was the right pitch. Like, there's some chance that either one of those pitches were the right answer, and just so happens that the fastball wasn't right, and maybe but we don't know because you didn't throw a slider in that situation, right? And so I don't know it all, and I'm a partner with them in their journey in 2024, right? And that's it. And today, and then tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day, and I think that's the kind of the epitome of Mindy and the epitome of this team. It's like, yeah, we weren't great early in the season. You start 0-5, and it's just not fun. And then, but it's like, no, we're just going to win today, and then tomorrow we're going to win, and then the next day we're going to win. If we lose, okay, then tomorrow we're going to win. And I think like we're proof of that mentality works because that's been our season.
I mean, do you think there's anything specific that goes into like earlier in the year, like you said, when things were a little rougher, guys were only going about 5 innings, and now it seems like everybody just goes 7?
Yeah. So I think our defense has improved, right? Like I said, in pitching, there's only so much we can control. We can control the decision that we make on what pitch to throw. We can control our mentality and what we're thinking about. We can control our aggressiveness with how we're trying to throw the pitch in the zone or not in the zone. But like once the ball leaves our hand, unless the ball's hit back at us or it's hit to Pete and we got to go cover first base, like there's virtually nothing we can do.
You got an umpire back there who's calling balls and strikes.
Exactly. And so, like really being elite at controlling what we can control, being really good decision makers, being really good at covering first base. And then whatever happens, so what? We'll learn from it and we'll keep getting better and we'll adjust if we need to.
Let's talk about the bullpen. You guys, we talked with Mendy yesterday. I mean, you guys have suffered a lot of big injuries in the bullpen. Guys like Daniel Nunez and Drew Smith and Brooks Raley was a big one, and Sean Reed Foley, who was pitching big innings for you guys. But you guys have still persevered. I mean, Reed Garrett has thrown, I think they have 12 scoreless outings, 12 straight scoreless outings. Jose Buto has been so critical for you guys. Huascar Brazoban, after an uneven start as a Met, has been really good. What excites you the most about this bullpen as we head down to the final week of the season?
I mean, obviously Sugar being healthy.
I didn't mention that guy. That was a layup. That was like the obvious one. I wanted to, go off the menu a little bit.
It kind of hinges on him, right? Like, and I think that's true for every team. Like, if you have an elite closer at the back end, it makes innings 6 through 8 or 5 through 8 a lot easier. Like you can mix and match and stuff like that. If there's a question mark in the 9th, then that's another inning you have to account for. And so we know Sugar's there. And so it makes Mindy's decision easier to navigate the matchups and stuff like that. But specific to our guys, I think it's more the same, kind of like what we've been talking about with the starters. It's just they know what they can control. They know what their strengths are, and like we're gonna really lean into all of that. And when one guy's went down or struggled in a specific spot, and we shuffle guys around, like they've taken it in stride. And it's a credit to our AAA staff and Grayson, the pitching coach down there. Like when guys go down, they're maybe they struggled here. They go down and they make a little bit of adjustment and they feel better about where stuff is and they come back and they do really well. And then in Reed Garrett's instance, like now a year and a half of being in the organization, like it's a credit to our acquisition team that like was like, I think there's something here, and then credit to Reed to like buy in and now we're reaping the benefits of that.
So one guy who just faced a devastating injury for a young guy in his first pro year first major league year is Christian Scott. You're a guy yourself. You had Tommy John twice. Do you have like a kind of special conversation with him where you're just telling him like what that road back was like for you and just kind of like trying to be there for him, not just as a coach, but just as like another Major League Baseball player?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm careful not to put my experience on someone else, but again, like just being a partner with them and like they have questions, like I can share my experience. It doesn't mean my experience is going to be their experience, but it's a lot of it's a lot of rehab and it's a grind and it's several months before you even get to throw a baseball. Like you're used to throwing a baseball every day and then all of a sudden you can't for some time. And so I think that's where you can create a little bit of advantage for yourself with the mental game is watching the game, putting yourself in that situation. All right, if I was this guy or if this was me, like how would I approach this at bat versus Bryce Harper or whoever?
Is missing the game like an aspect of it that people don't even realize is so hard, where it's not just like you said, you're not even throwing a baseball for something you do every day of your life. Is that just an unknown thing?
Yeah, and I think like it's kind of what happened with Sugar last year, right? He missed a full season. He was still throwing a little bit, but like you don't have those juices flowing and the anticipation of coming in a game and the crowd rallying around you or booing you if we're on the road or whatever, right? And so like once you get back into that, it takes some time because it's like it's different senses and because you do all the work and you feel good, but like there's the mental side of like handling all that stress or pressure or whatever, like it takes a little bit of time. And we saw that with Edwin earlier in the year, and like then he got back into it and he got back into his routine and flow, and it's like, okay, this is what that felt like. I've been here before, those types of things.
On the topic of going back to your playing days, you pitched for the Mets and now you are a pitching coach for the Mets. So you know this organization very well 12 years ago to now. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, how much have things advanced? Without getting too much into detail, I know there are some proprietary secrets we don't want to talk about, but just the overall philosophies with pitching and the technology and a lot of the investment that's been made into the lab that's everyone talks about.
Sure.
Where is the Mets pitching philosophy today compared to where it was back in 2012, 2013?
Yeah, I think like as an industry, we're tracking more things. So like we either know more things or we think we know more things. I'm not sure which one of those is right, but like the Mets have been rich in pitching. I was kind of the stopgap for Jake. And,
I was there when
Matt.
you homered against Joe Blanton. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Second interview with Jeremy Hefner in a row, you brought that up.
I know. Do you remember? I was thinking about this morning. I was like, I'm going to bring it up again. We'll see if he remembers me bringing it up.
I remember.
Mark Quintana's Mets debut.
For sure. But like, yeah, it was like Colin McHugh, Therese Familia, Henry Mejia, Harvey, were the AAA staff in 2012, and like I'm the first guy that gets called up. It's like something's maybe the philosophy was a little off back then, but no, I think it's been kind of a pitching first type organization, at least for the last decade and a half, and I don't think that's necessarily true now. I think like we have a better understanding of hitting and pitching and stuff like that. But I'm just really impressed with, we've obviously had some turnover but like at my level and with Jags and Jono and Raj and our pitching coaches in the minor leagues, like we have a really solid group who are not like-minded. And I think that's a really cool thing. Like we all bring different things to the table and different ideas, and we push on each other. And I think that's good. That's a good thing, because if everyone thinks the same and it's an echo chamber, like then if you start to go down a bad path, you're just going to go down a bad path for a long time, and you could do harm for several years. Where if you have people within the organization who maybe aren't the leaders of that particular department, who say, whoa, what about this? And then it causes everybody to take a step back and think. I think that gets us to better outcomes faster. And I think we've seen that with our guys and how we've been able to develop not only our draft guys, but guys who claim off waivers or free agent signs at the major league level and the free agents at the minor league level. I feel like we've been able to help guys more than we've not.
And you know what? I'm going to ask you just what you think, if this is a faux pas or not. I caught my first foul ball yesterday, and I'm very excited about it. But a lot of people gave me huff because they said I should have given it to a kid. I didn't steal it from a kid. I didn't like move a kid out the way. I caught it. I've never caught one before, and I wanted to keep it. What do you think?
I think you're around the team, and we could probably get you a ball.
No,
that's what I was.
That's not about.
I would give it to a kid.
It's not about that. It's not about. It's not about that. I can get one. I could get one, but like I've been to hundreds of games in my life.
But what's the difference?
I've been to hundreds of games in my life, and I've never caught one.
Yeah, but you caught it.
Yeah,
so
did
like
you catch it, or
that
did someone
memory.
flip it to you?
No, I caught it.
You caught it.
I don't. I'm not going to ask. I'm a 31-year-old man. I'm not going to ask another dude to throw me a ball
No,
and be
like
like,
a
oh my
ball
god.
boy, or maybe it bounced and you picked it up.
No. I caught it in the air, and I've always wanted to do that. And then I'm done. And now if I ever catch one again, anybody can have it. But I wanted that first one.
He told me this story, and I wanted to say we probably could have just like gotten one.
I don't know. That's not different. Like getting handed it is so different. Like catching it.
Doesn't
like,
doing something nice for a kid make you feel good?
I've coached children. I've been I've done that.
But for me, like now you're gonna look at that ball every time and be like, man, I should have gave that ball.
No,
to
I'm gonna look at that ball every time and say, I'm so pumped I got this.
All right.
Well,
teach his own.
You just exposed yourself to Jeremy Hefner.
And you know what, Jeremy? I hope you'll do this pod again, even though that I kind of look like a bad person now. Thanks so much.
Want to sign the ball for Vito, maybe?
Maybe.
Okay.
Who hit it?
It was ninth inning. It was Kyle Schwarber off Edwin Diaz.
Okay. Well, okay. Edwin was pitching. I don't know. I still think you give it to a kid.
And last night, it was a sick game. Like it was. You know?
Yeah.
I'm done now. I'm done. I'm 31.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done. I'm done. Cool.
Foul.
Well, you can follow this podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Vito F. Khaleesi, John at JMB9191.
Tweet at him and tell him what you think.
And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time at the Apple.